If the Atlanta Braves decide to blow things up, should the first move be to trade Ronald Acuña Jr.? I'll answer that question and many more on today's mailbag episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on social media at shorts.ball. Check out the podcast there at Locked On_Braves on X and Locked On Braves on Instagram. If you're new and watching this on YouTube, please do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button of over 14,000 subscribers and counting. So thank you so much for your support there. You can also hit the thumbs up button, leave me a comment down below so others can find us here on YouTube at Locked On Braves. For those listening on the audio version, which is still the majority of our listeners, please make sure you help us out as well. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much for your support here at Locked On Braves, making us your first listen of each and every day, continuing to come back despite everything happening on the field. Although Wednesday was pretty fun. We talked about that on the postcast. You want to give it a listen. But again, thank you so much for your support here at Locked On Braves. Thanks so much to all my everydayers out there. Today is our weekly mailbag episode, doing a little earlier this week with the 4th of July holiday. Hopefully you're all getting ready for a safe and fun family get-together this weekend for 4th of July. So I will be doing the same, which is why we're going to do the mailbag podcast today. A lot of questions to get to as usual, over 20 questions on today's episode. A lot of them, or several of them, having to do with Ronald Acuña Jr. Should the Braves trade him? Some other questions about what do we watch in the second half with a team that seems to be just completely dead at this point. So I'll answer those questions and many more on today's episode, which is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Well, let's jump into the questions, and I'm going to try to filter through the ones about Acuña to start off because we got a couple of them. Matt Malone says, listen every day. Thanks for guiding us through the nightmare. Did you see the recent segment on MLB Network making an argument for trading Acuña? I think it's a ridiculous idea for a beloved generational talent, but would love to hear your thoughts. And Whit Price said, do you think we trade in the division for Acuña, and what do you think it would take? I would start with Albies. So I think there's some others too. Kane Suttles, maybe a wild take, but I personally think trading Acuña to a team like the Orioles, Mariners, or even Red Sox could bring in a lot of future success. Is this too crazy of a take? Look, the fan in me, and look, you're both fans and you both have different takes. So this isn't an umbrella for all fans, but me personally, as a Braves fan, I want to see Ronald here for his entire career. I think he's one of the most exciting players in all of baseball. It's not my money. I want to see him here for the rest of his career. So no, I would not trade him. And I think it's somewhat ridiculous to even entertain the idea of trading somebody of his talent. Now, business side of things, I don't think it's a ridiculous idea. And I think it could potentially be better for the long-term future of this team. I'm not saying that definitively, but I think it potentially could be. Would I trade him right now? If that's the overarching question, no. Just because you still got plenty of years left of control. Look, like I said, as a fan, as a Braves fan, I want him here for life. That doesn't mean I'm oblivious to the fact that he's had ACL injury on both knees now, and is somebody that's probably going to have to be a DH for the second half of his career. Knowing that if he continues to produce with the bat, even if you feel like he's going to be a DH, he's going to get $30 million a year. Juan Soto's going to be a DH for the second half of his career, and he's still got just ridiculous money. Fernando Tatis Jr., he's not going to be a DH. He can, obviously, he's a Gold Glove right fielder, but he's making $36, $37 million throughout the rest of his career. Mike Trout, he's making $37 million through, his age 38 season. You're going to have to pay $30+ million to Ronald Acuña Jr. if he continues to hit like he has been right now, proves himself healthy enough to at least be a good hitter. You're going to have to pay him $30+ million. And it's just hard for me to see this franchise doing that. And I think this is all brought about with the talk on MLB Network, but also the quotes from Ronald himself. Again, reiterating, this is my second home. I want to be here for life. He's saying all the right things, but it's not like he's going to take $22 million a year and take a huge discount when he's already essentially taken one huge discount in the first deal that he signed. Look, and that took a lot of risk in it. He's missed 2 years, 2+ years because of knee injuries. So again, it's a great deal for him. He got that guaranteed money, even with the injuries that he's had, but it's also been a great deal for the Atlanta Braves too. They made a lot of money off him. They've had a lot of success because of him. So there's a fan part of me that says it's not my money. He's one of my favorite players. I want to see him here for the rest of his career. There's a business side of me that says he's already had 2 major ACL injuries. He's probably going to be a DH, and you're probably going to have to pay him $30+ million, which is going to hamper what you can do for the rest of the team. So I get both sides of it, and I can understand both points of view. Me personally, though, if you can make it work out, you've already let Freddie Freeman walk away. That should have never happened. And again, I get all the extenuating circumstances that happened within that, with his agent and Freddie just not picking up the phone himself, but still give him the 6th year. That should have never happened. He should have been a Brave for life. And now you're at a crossroads with another Brave who's going to go down as one of the best ever. I mean, you've already heard Chipper talk about the fact that he's the most talented Braves player in Braves history. And what are you going to do with him? And again, I think it's still too early to even consider that. You still have several years left of control to really figure this out and see what he's going to look like, what it's going to look like. If the Red Sox came to you and said, okay, here's Marcelo Meyer, here's, Christian Campbell, here's all these top prospects, would you give us this for Acuña? I don't know, because it certainly would help if they were going to do any type of rebuild. Now, if you want to succeed for the next couple of years, if you want to keep this window open, you absolutely do not trade Acuña. But if you are, wanting to do some sort of soft reset or just a complete rebuild, Acuña can bring you back the prospects to help you turn that around pretty quickly. Again, not saying that should happen. I don't think it should happen. I think they should do some sort of soft rebuild in the offseason. Yes, try to change out the personnel, but I think there's still enough talent here that if they can make those personnel changes, that we could see this team, compete again and keep this window open. I'm not ready to shut this window, but if you were, I could understand the desire to trade Acuña because he could get you a lot back and help you turn things around quickly. So I know I've kind of gone all over the place with this answer and not really given you a definitive one, but hopefully I've explained the reasonings for both sides of the argument and why you could see it. Again, I'll come back, though, and give you my definitive answer as just a Braves fan. I want him here for life. It's not my money. Give him whatever it needs. I want to see Acuña in a Braves uniform for the rest of his career. Again, it should have happened with Freddie. That was sickening. It hurt. I don't want to see that happen again with Acuña. So give him whatever he needs. Let him stay in Atlanta for the rest of his career. He's one of my favorite players, one of the best players we've seen in a Braves uniform. Do whatever it takes. But again, I see the opposite side of that too, and why it could make sense to move on from him. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Again, it's a divisive conversation because, as I said, I can see arguments from both sides of it. But again, we'll continue the conversation in the comment section below, and this won't be the last time that we talk about the possibility of trading Acuña. If you think it's happening this year, it's absolutely not happening this year. Maybe in the offseason, but if he gets the free agency, he's gone. But so this won't be the last time that we talk about this potential of trading Acuña. All right, that was just 3 of the questions that we have. We have 30 questions to get to today. I'll jump back into the rest of those here next. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without all the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming Braves game. You're excited about the second half. Maybe you want to see Acuña play and enjoy him in a Braves uniform. You can do that through Gametime with their last-minute tickets, zone deals, and big savings like 10% off exclusive zone deals coming up as well. Seat views right in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what you'll be looking at. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. I've had many listeners reach out to me. Hey, what's that promo code for Gametime to get that $20 off? It's LOCKEDONMLB. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Go check out the guys over at Locked On MLB, keeping you up to date with everything happening around Major League Baseball. See Craig Steele saying you don't trade Ronnie, you trade everyone else around him. And that's pretty good logic. I don't know that I can disagree with that too much. But let's jump into all the other questions here as we have many more to get to. Double A says, if you could only keep 5 players, who would you build it around? So Acuña, I would build around Acuña. I'd build around Strider and Schwellenbach on the pitching side of things. I would still build around Riley and Olsen. All right. I still would build around Riley, I think. And the 5th one is either going to be Olsen or Baldwin for me. Probably Baldwin is why I had to kind of go back, because I think you got to have that young core catcher that you have. So Acuña, Schwellenbach, Strider, and then either Riley or Olsen and Baldwin. The only reason I say Riley is just because he's a couple of years younger. Obviously, Olsen's a better player right now. But those are the 5 that I would build it around. Matt, did A literally have his worst offseason ever? His big move was busted for PEDs, did nothing for the rotation and the bare bones minimum for the bullpen. What grade would you give him? Hard for me to give him anything higher than a D, and that is being generous. So I can't remember at this point. I want to say that I gave him like a C plus or something for his grade in the offseason. Look, you couldn't foresee the Jurickson Profar suspension, so it's hard to hold that against him. But even then, I mean, we talked about it a lot. He just didn't do enough in the offseason to help out the depth of the pitching staff. And while that hasn't been the biggest issue, in my opinion, it's been the lack of offense from the key players that you already had. That's not on Alex, unless you're upset about him with the deals that he signed that everybody praised when he signed him and why people called him such a great GM. But he certainly didn't do enough to help the pitching staff. So, I mean, yeah, if you're going to hold the PED suspension against him, it's a D type of offseason, because then you literally did nothing in the offseason to help your team. Another one from Matt. You mentioned before it's on the players and not to blame coaching manager. You recently said scrap everything and go back to the old approach at the plate. Are you now conceding there is fault with the coaching staff when it comes to this offense? So if you listen to what I talked about the other day, I like the idea of what Tim Hires is doing. And I think that's ultimately what this offense needs to be a more well-rounded, complete offense. I think the players are the wrong players to try to teach this to. So yeah, I still put it back on the players. I don't think it's necessarily the coaching. I think the coaching is the right approach to go to. Look, like I said, they're taking more pitches. That's great. They're getting more walks. You're taking the wrong pitches though. It's not so much about having a more patient approach. It's swinging at good pitches and laying off of bad pitches. Instead, they're just taking pitches to take pitches. And that's not what this approach should be. And I doubt that's what Tim Hires is telling them to do. So again, I still don't necessarily blame it on the coaching. I think it was the right idea to try to bring in another coach to make this a more well-rounded offense, to help them in the postseason where we've seen this boomer bust offensive mentality not work. It's just, I don't know that the group that you have, that you built to be nothing but slug, is the right group to try to teach this to. So I think you could put that, if you want to place blame somewhere, maybe you put it on the front office for just not getting the right coaches in here to coach to these players' strengths. I think maybe that's a legitimate argument, but also just it comes back for me for the players, which I don't know that these players are equipped to make those changes. QW, do you think Ozuna would veto a trade since he has 10-5 rights? Yeah, I can't answer that. I don't know. I mean, he seems to love it here in Atlanta. They've embraced him after everything that he's gone through off the field, and people have come to love him. I doubt he'd really want to leave that. But I mean, if you're on a dead team in the second half, wouldn't you want to go try to? It probably depends on where it is, what the team is. I think it all kind of play into that. I think he would do it for the right situation, but I think it would take a lot for him to leave Atlanta. Colin Moses, what's the path for the Braves to get back into playoff contention? So the path is they got to go 8-4 in this stretch in July leading up to the All-Star break at the least. I mean, that's, I think 46-49 or something like that. So it's still, 3 games under 500, but you got to do that leading up to it. And then you got to come out of the All-Star break And you've got to get within 5 games. I mean, to put it simply, what I've said all along is I think you got to be with 5 games or less of a postseason spot at the trade deadline. If you can do that, you give yourself a chance. Maybe you make a couple moves, and then the schedule is pretty favorable in the second half. But what's favorable right now for this Braves team? So if you're just talking about winning wise, what is the path for this Braves team? Before the All-Star break, going 8-4 in this stretch, getting within 3 games of 500, coming out after the second half and playing well enough to force Alex Anthopoulos to at least make a move or two, get within 5 games of a postseason spot, and then just hope that your offense takes off down the stretch and can keep you in it until a Sell or Schwellenbach returns, or Lopez, a Jimenez. You get some of these pitchers back. It ultimately comes down to the offense, though. What do you think the Braves could get for Rafael Montero? Not much. I don't think anybody's really buying into Montero and his production here as of late. And even if they did, you're talking about a C-level type of prospect. You're not getting much for him. Matt Malone, listen every day. Jake, thanks for guiding us through this nightmare season. I already read this one. So I read the one from Matt Malone, Whit Price, and Kane Suttles, all about Acuña's trade. Matt, another one from Matt Karch. Would it be so on brand for the 2025 Braves that our starting pitching that carried us all season gets hurt, and we now start scoring runs and being an elite offense for the rest of the season, only to still not make the playoffs because now we can't get anyone out? Yes, and I laughed about this during the game, watching the game on Wednesday, just sitting here thinking we lost Schwellenbach today. The starting pitching is in shambles. We're ready to wave the white flag once again, and now here comes the offense, hitting 3-run homers, grand slams, putting up a bunch of runs. And yeah, it would be pretty on brand to see the offense now all of a sudden be elite while the starting pitching fades. I'll say this, though. I think it's easier to get through a regular season with a good offense. Again, you can go back to 2023 for this, where the pitching wasn't fantastic. It was middle of the pack, but they just blew everybody away. And look, you got to score runs to win games. I guess is basically what it comes down to. You can have great pitching, but still not win because your offense isn't giving you anything, which is what we've seen for a year and a half now. But you can outscore your opponents with a great offense. So I think it'd be easier to get through the regular season by just having a great offense. So if that's the direction they want to go, I think it gives them a better chance in the second half. But yeah, I thought about that too, watching the game on Wednesday, how ironic it would be. Peterson says, what do now? You got to have a great offense. I mean, it is on the offensive shoulders to turn things around now. Caleb Cook, short and simple, do the 2025 Braves make the playoffs? I say no. Again, I want to remain optimistic. I want to remain hopeful. I'm not completely waving in the white flag, even though I've kind of hinted at it a few times here or there. But if you're asking me now, do I think this 2025 Braves team makes the playoffs? No. There's just nothing I've seen from the offense to tell me that they can be consistent enough to do what they have to do in the second half without Sell, without Schwellenbach, to win enough games. You got to go on a couple of big runs. I mean, you got to go on a 9-1 stretch. You got to go on a 10-4 stretch. You got to have really 2 big stretches and avoid the 4 or 5 game losing streaks. And there's just nothing about this team that tells me they can do that. Kathy G, remind us fans how it looks to watch the second half as a non-contender. It's been a while, so many of us have forgotten, but we have to find a way to enjoy the game, embrace the good, laugh at the bad, look forward to 26, and stop being mad. Appreciate your thoughts, advice. And then similar, Boo Urin says, is there anything worth watching in the second half of the season, or should I just wait till spring training? So, look, I'm a kid of the 90s too. I watched this team win a lot growing up, and even through the teen years. I mean, they still were winning off and on for the most part until the official rebuild began in the mid-teens. So I've seen a lot of winning myself, and it is hard. That's why I think it's taken me so long to really just wave the white flag on this season, because I don't want to give up. And it is baseball, and you can go on incredible runs. We've seen it happen before. But if this team is out of it, what do you watch in the second half? For me, I watch what the future looks like. I enjoy Ronald Acuña Jr. I hopefully see them bring up some young starters, maybe a Hurston Waldrop, maybe a J.R. Ritchie, and see what they can do. I look forward to hopefully the progress of Spencer Strider getting back to being his dominant self. I look forward to seeing the evolution of Drake Baldwin and what he can be. Maybe if Nacho were to get an opportunity, you really start to look for the young guys and the pieces that you have going forward. Is Profar, the real deal? Can he be a big part of this team next year? Can Michael Harris start to turn things around and have some positive vibes going into next season? So those were the things that I would really be looking for. Enjoy your superstars like Ronald, even with Matt Olson, what he's doing, and then also start to look to the future. What kind of young guys do you get? Can you get the rest of the season that maybe are going to be a big part of things going forward? All right, a lot more questions to get to on today's episode. We'll finish these up here next. So getting back into the questions, Eddie says, with 80% of the rotation dead in 2025 over, what moves are you looking for A to make it at the deadline? With 2026 in mind, we know he's not selling and believes this team competes in 26. Also between Richie, Burkhalter, Waldrop, who do you think we see next? So I covered that on Thursday morning's episode, I guess. Between those three, I think Waldrop, just because he's already on the 40-man roster and he's shown some strides, but I would rank it Waldrop, Richie, Burkhalter. If you're asking me who I think, my order would probably be Richie, Waldrop, Burkhalter. But as far as what moves would I like to see AA make at the deadline, I'd like to see him go out and see if he can find a reliever that can either be a setup guy or perhaps a closer. Because after this season, we don't really know who our closer is. Maybe it's Dylan Lee, maybe it's Daysbull, but we don't really know who that closer is. And you're going to need bullpen help for this year and the years to come with Iglesias coming off the books. So that's what I'd be looking for at the deadline. Again, even though they're not going to be huge buyers for this year, finding a setup closer type reliever for this year and the years to come is what I'd like to see AA do. Alex Applefield says, which prospects do you feel like are untouchable for trades? Man, I don't know that there are any, to be quite honest with you right now. I don't know that there's anybody in this system that I wouldn't trade in the right deal. Maybe Cam Caminiti, but outside of that, I just don't know. I mean, there's plenty of guys that I like. Maybe Diego Torrens. Again, there's plenty of guys that I like in the system. Do not get this wrong or twisted. But I don't think there's anybody in this system right now that is completely untouchable. Even a guy like J.R. Ritchie, I talk about all the time. I love him. I think he's going to be a good pitcher. I'd move him in the right deal. Now, I'm not saying I just give any of these guys away. I think they all have, some level of value. But there's not anybody I wouldn't trade if, say you could find somebody for a future shortstop or, even if you can find that dominant setup closer type reliever. I don't know that there's anybody in this system that I wouldn't make a trade for one of those types of players. And as I say, SSW, we're not trading Acuña for nothing. Assume we're talking about just prospects here. Double A says, where do you think we would be today if A didn't let our cornerstone pieces like Freddie, Dansby, and Fried walk? Do you think we would be struggling this bad, or would it be a set of brand new problems? Also, hope you and your family have a great 4th of July. Well, thank you for that. Hope yours do as well. I talked about this earlier. Freddie should have never left. Should have never got to that point, and he should be here. And I think it would help because it gives you some of that leadership. And you listen to the podcast, this is nothing against Matt Olson, who I've defended all along. And I think is a great player and certainly Braves' second best hitter right now behind Acuña. So, in terms of this year, placing Olson with Freddie, which is what you would be doing, I don't know that it makes that much of a difference because you're still not fixing any other problems. Trading out Dansby for Nick Allen. I mean, Nick Allen's defense has been better, and I haven't looked at Dansby's numbers in a while. I don't think they're, anything great that would be saving this season. Max Fried's been unbelievable, but up until the injuries, so has the Braves starting pitching staff with Chris Sale and Schwellenbach. Would I like to have those guys? And just looking at Dansby's numbers real quick, 248 average, 300 on base, 725 OPS, 14 home runs. So he's giving you some more power, but it's not like it's a huge average or on base from Dansby either. So I don't know that it makes that much of a difference other than just leadership and for whatever that's worth. And it's hard to quantify that. So really just getting those guys back, I don't think it gives you much more production than what you've gotten out of the offense this year and really out of the starting pitching staff. Certainly I'd love to have Fried over Bryce Elder or, Didier Fuentes right now, and that would definitely help. So, would having those three guys, would it make this team better? Yeah, but it's not exactly filling the holes that are plaguing the Braves right now. They still would be struggling with, Ozuna having a down month, Riley having a down month of June, Michael Harris and Ozzie Albies struggles. Like, it doesn't fix those issues. Again, the only thing unquantifiable we don't know is what it does leadership-wise, if it makes that much of a difference. Ben Ginsburg, do you have any early targets for the Braves in the 26 draft? So yeah, we talk about it every week. I've been previewing the draft for the past 6 or 7 weeks now. You want to go listen to some of those podcasts. Usually come out on a Tuesday, but Gage Wood is a hot name right now that's being mentioned a lot with the Braves. I like Gavin Keelan, Ike Irish, Daniel Pierce. If any of those names were to fall to the Braves, Chase Laviolette, who was a first overall consensus pick, who has fallen down near to the Braves, could be a big bat. But outside of that, it's really just a bunch of arms that I think the Braves are going to be targeting at 22nd overall. Whit Price, would you trade Ozuna and Murphy for Duran and Story Buehler? I think if you take Story, the Red Sox have to absorb a good bit of that contract. No, I wouldn't do this just because Story and Buehler are a wash. I don't know that they're making your team that much better. It essentially comes down to a trade for Sean Murphy for Jarren Duran, which isn't terrible because you have Baldwin, but I don't think it's enough. Like, we'll talk about this a lot in the offseason because I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions on should the Braves trade Sean Murphy. I'm not against trading Sean Murphy, but I'm not just giving him away. Like, I like the idea of having both Drake Baldwin and Sean Murphy, especially if the DH becomes a bit more open and you can use both guys at the same time in the same lineup. Jarren Duran, he's 28, which is, again, not old or anything, but he's probably older than you would imagine for a guy that just kind of broke out last year. His numbers aren't all that great this season, hitting 250. So it's looking like maybe 2024 was just a bit of an outlier for him. And he is under control for, 3 more seasons. So again, I don't hate the idea of getting Duran. I just don't think it makes your team that much better. Because again, I'm pushing Story and Buehler out of this because I just don't think they're much of an upgrade and do anything for you going forward. So it's really just Sean Murphy or Jarren Duran. Would you do that move? And I don't know that that's a slam dunk for me. Matt Cox, I'm really out of questions at this point and have given up on the season, but I just want to say thanks to Jake for all you do and for putting it with this team and still making content on a daily basis. Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you for continuing to chime in, even though you've given up on the season. Appreciate that. Caden Hurd, what is 1 or 2 starting pitcher moves we need to trade for to save our season? So I've mentioned Michael Soroka, Adrian Hauser, I think are 2 just kind of, lower budget, lower cost type of pitchers that you could probably go get right now. Andrew Heaney for the Pirates. The Braves aren't going out and getting any top starters, nor should they give up any top prospects for any top starters right now to try to save this season. But I think you can go out and get some veteran guys to at least give you some innings and give your offense a chance if this offense is going to turn things around. So those are just some of the names that immediately come to mind for me. I'm not looking for anything top of the rotation wise. I'm just looking for some veterans that can give you some quality innings. Justin Shoemake, with Atlanta's rotation now depleted and their offense still struggling, is it time to sell some players to restock the farm a little bit? Or do you think A still buys and goes all out this season and makes a big splash at the trade deadline to help this team now? He's not going to make a big splash at the deadline because he just doesn't do that. Think of the biggest trade he's made at the deadline. I know we all talk about the 2021 trade. Those were all small trades. He was giving up panda heads for the moves that he made at the 2021 deadline. So that's just nothing he's never really done. So he's not going to make some big splash this season. I can see a world in which this offseason he spends big. In fact, if he doesn't spend big, we're going to be pretty upset here on this podcast. But yeah, I don't see them making any big splash at the deadline. And I don't know that they really have the players to trade to restock the farm system. To get anything significant there either. You're talking about Ozuna and Iglesias at this point. If Chris Sale were still healthy and you wanted to move that, I think that would have been the only move that you could really make to try to get something substantial for the farm system. But, he's obviously not available now and not going to be traded. PayPal says, this is not the official PayPal. PayPal 11 says, will any of the Braves pending free agents garner draft compensation? Marcel or Iggy most likely? No, because remember, you'd have to offer those guys qualifying offers, which is up over 21 million now. And Marcel and Iggy probably both just accept that. So no, I don't think they're going to be getting any draft comp picks this year from pending free agents. Calvin Fainer, crazy trade throw out Alex Bregman, Chapman, and Hendricks to Atlanta for low-level pitching. Put Bregman at second base. Why are the Red Sox doing that? If you're just giving them some low-level pitching, you'd have to consider some names there, but I don't see that happening. Another one from Calvin. What are we waiting for with Ozuna at this point? We have to slug to win, and both Baldwin and Murphy are outperforming him. Lineup should be Acuña, Baldwin, Profar, Olsen, Murphy, Riley, Harris, Albies, and Allen. So I don't disagree about I think they should have put Ozuna on the IL a month ago. Now, at the time, he was still getting on base, still doing good things, and the Braves needed all the offensive help they could get. And so they were just asking him to push through it. But it's done more harm than good at this point. And it's probably best just to go ahead and put him on the IL, get Baldwin and Murphy both in the lineup with, both of them swinging the bat well right now, and see what it can do for your offense. So I don't disagree with that, but it's going to take convincing Ozuna that he needs to go on the IL. Smoke said, does anybody know what happened to Justin Toscana? So I haven't looked recently. I know he's no longer with the AJC, but I don't know if he is picked up anywhere else as of yet. But yeah, that's a big loss. Obviously, fan of Justin here, who's come on the podcast in the past before, but I haven't seen him post anything since June 2nd on social media. So I'm not sure where he is, and I haven't reached out to check with him just yet. But that's a big loss for the AJC. He's been great. Manuel Gonzalez, I understand trying to play Ozuna to give him trade value, but what do you gain if he continues to look washed? Isn't it better to give him an IL stint and see if he heals and becomes productive? Yes. Like I said, they should have done it a month ago, weeks ago at this point. Mike Brooks, is there any chance that Anthopoulos could lose his job? And secondly, does his performance as GM stand out anywhere? I don't understand the second part of this question. Could he lose his job? I don't think he would this year, but I think it's a very important offseason for him, because this offseason is going to tell a lot about the direction of the team going forward. And he hasn't looked as squeaky clean with all of his moves the last couple of years either. So, and look, you got to keep in mind, he brought in Ronaldo and Chris Sale the last offseason, and those two worked out pretty fantastic for the Braves. So it's not like he has just a ton of losses here, but I do think this offseason is going to be big for him. The Tim Hires thing, letting Kevin Seitzer go, in retrospect, that's looking pretty bad. What the Mariners are doing offensively compared to what the Braves are doing, that's looking like a pretty big L at the moment. And last one from Dustin Melton. While I think Snitker's role in this team's poor play this season is greatly exaggerated, most people would agree that the fit just isn't there anymore. Do you think that's true? And if so, why? Is it the players, or is it he just not the type of manager the Braves need right now? So I've said this before. I think Snitker is the perfect manager for that business-like mentality when everything's just kind of going well and you keep everybody even keel, not too high or too low. But when you need to show some urgency and your team isn't playing well, I just don't think he's the right fit for that. And that's what this Braves team has needed really the last 2 years. They've needed to show a sign of urgency that, hey, things are wrong. We're not playing well. We need to kick it into gear. And I just don't know that Snitker's that type of manager, that fiery type of manager to kick somebody in the behind and say, get it going. And for that reason, I don't know that he's a fit for where the Braves are now. Where the Braves have been, where they've just been kind of rolling, you throw out the same lineup every day, everything's great, and his biggest job is just making sure they don't get too high or too low. They just maintain that consistency. He's perfect for that. But for where this team is now, currently, and they're needing some fire, they're needing to get things going, I don't know that Snit is the right manager for that. And I think Snit's gone after the season anyway. I've maintained that, for 3 or 4 years now, even that I thought he would go after this contract ran out. He turned 70, all of that. So I think he's going to be gone either way. But you're right. I don't think a lot of this is on Snitker. I think it's on the players, but I also don't think for where the team is record wise, I don't know that he's the right fit. He's not the guy to really, get them. He doesn't have that fire mentality, in my view of what I see, to really get this team going and give them what they need right now. All right, that's all the questions. Thanks so much for submitting those in. As always, Soul Knife, CH Man, Baseball and More, SSW, Doug. Thank you all for joining live on the chat section. Brandon, Baseball, Logan, Atkinson, appreciate you as well being here with me live. Hope you all have a great 4th of July weekend. I will be here on the postcast on Thursday night, possibly on Friday night too. We'll see, and throughout the weekend. So hope you all have a great 4th of July weekend. But this will be the last podcast for Locked On Braves this week. But again, me and Lindsay will be on the postcast through the weekend. So hope you all have a great and safe 4th of July. Again, thanks for all the questions you submitted. Make sure that you subscribe on YouTube if you're new, hit the thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next.